Empire Podcast, episode 099, The Alchemist and Nick Weiland.
A pathless wilderness, wild, rugged, that was a hardy frontier, far from the paths of civilization.
If you close your eyes, you can pretend it's North Dakota.
Where fortune beckons with a glittering smile.
Oh, you see South Dakota, Sean? They're insanely hot!
And life hung on the quickness of a trigger finger.
I will do my best to listen intently.
The Sioux Empire Podcast.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Sioux Empire Podcast. I am your host, Robert Mailing. This is the Sioux Empire Podcast, the quirky but harmless podcast that's all about Sioux Empire news, comedy, music, and culture. Once again, your humble host, Robert, here. Also, we have co-host Seth, the man Glover.
By the time you hear this, the snow will be gone. Say it with me. By the time you hear this, the snow will be gone. Hey.
Oh, hey! And there's someone else on the couch, too. And I don't know what happened to Natasha. There was that whole, she said something about an Indian burial ground and a vortex at a pet shop or something. I don't know.
Wasn't it that she had a there was a blue angel that was sick, and so she had to take over for one of them and fly down in Kentucky, and
yeah,
they couldn't find somebody that could, that was 10G rated pilot.
Yeah, and then she was writing all those detective novels, and the novels started happening in real life, so she's got to deal with that.
So it was something like that, or else she was helping Bernie Sanders with some backyard. No, nothing wrong. Just like he needed some help around the yard. He's an old man.
Oh, it's not a euphemism. Okay.
No. She just likes helping. She does outreach for the. No, Bernie is
anyway.
not too old. But anyway.
Anyway, we have with us Nick Weiland, who is running for City Council.
At-large B.
At-large B. Very nice. I've been to At-large B. It's quite the B.
It's quite the low.
It's a great spot,
Yeah, it's a great part of Sioux Falls.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on today.
No problem.
Thanks for coming.
We were going to ask you all about all the typical candidate questions and then some weird ones you won't be prepared for. But let's see. Let's jump right into everyone's favorite bi-weekly segment, Seth's Book Club. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's that sound? It's the sound of Seth's Sioux Empire Podcast Bi-Weekly Book Club. The books aren't about the Sioux Empire, but Seth reads them in the Sioux Empire.
Hey guys, what's up? This week I read a magical tale of adventure and love. It's The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Is that how it's pronounced? It's close enough. It's good for Rob, it's good for me. But this is a really fun page-turner. It got me back in the swing of reading in 2018. Just a fascinating tale that's written in a way that just makes you want to read the next page and follow along in the story.
Real page-turner.
Real page-turner, this one. I tell you what. It's about a story of this boy who starts out in southern Spain, and he is a sheep farmer, or a shepherd, rather. Sheep farmer. Shepherd. And,
sure.
Yeah. And he kind of comes across this soothsayer who tells him that he has a treasure somewhere in next to the pyramids, and so he starts out on this crazy journey. Initially his dad wanted him to be, what was it again? You probably didn't get to that part because you were a third of the way in, but he had a very awesome, the entire life story of the boy that's like the main character in this is just fascinating. He starts out there in Spain, and he starts to travel to Africa in search of this treasure. And along the way, he learns that this treasure is also his personal legend, and that's like what defines a person and what makes their life kind of have a meaning. Or
there's a call to adventure based on a dream, and he engages in a hero's journey in which he, travels along, meets interesting characters, and grows and changes as a character as he develops.
And this week it's actually pretty cool because Rob hasn't read all of it, but he did start listening to the book.
I did.
But our guest has read the book, and even twice.
Yeah, I think I've actually read it twice. I had it on audiobook for a while, so I'd put it on there sometimes. To me, so much of it is about this external thing that we're all searching for, and never really finding it, and maybe realizing as you get older that it's actually internal, it's within you, and that's where your treasure and your true gift, and like they said, like your legend is and that's what I took out of that story. And I've read a few of his books, and the way he writes is just very well. And
this is the first book of his that I've ever read, and it certainly got me rearing to read the next one, or chomping at the bit to read the next one. He kind of it's sort of set in a biblical time, so he plays off of these large overreaching stories that you already know from the Bible, and then he just kind of puts those in to kind of but it's also not like a Christian sort of way. It's like a Wicca, like you use the term Wiccan sort of a tale, and it's sort of like, because it talks about omens and magic,
which there's actually roots in the Bible for that, those types of, a lot of his themes are that he takes from the Bible, and actually changes maybe the perspective of it a little bit, and like you said, it's Wicca and these different one of these books is about wizards and witches and all this stuff, but it's all based around the Bible, very similar to The Alchemist.
Yeah, it's a great book. If you guys haven't read it, I highly suggest it. And then it's also not very long either. So I mean, if you are like me and you don't get in the swing of reading very easily, this is a couple less than 170 pages, and boy, it's a fun one if you've never read his work. And then what else do you guys want to know about this book? Because it's Seth's bi-weekly book club. You don't get this every week. It's bi-weekly. So I want to make sure that you get your fill, everybody. All right. Seth's book club. All right. Man, I just love the depiction that he gives, and the way he writes this boy's life out, and the boy's perspective on life, and how the boy, Rob is up to the point where he gets into Africa, and then he starts working at this crystal shop. The crystal shop is a really fun part of the book. Just shows like how life isn't immediate. You might start your journey, for your personal legend, and you might think it's going to be, well, I'm just going to be going from here to the pyramids, but you have a lot of things that come up that
it's the journey, not the destination. If
they don't deter you from the journey, from continuing on, and you have to have patience, and this book is over the course of many years, or depicted over the course of many years, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a great book. I love it.
See, I think it has a lot of interesting parallels to what we're living in today, which is that we're all searching for this external peace when really we need to have this internal thing happening and being at peace with yourself. And when you have all these shiny things in front of you all the time and you're always on your screen, that's really hard to do. And that's what I like so much about some of these books, is that you can get just lost in another world, where you can see something that's maybe a little bit simpler than our lives. I think our lives tend to get so complicated that we can't appreciate those small things. And like you said, it is the journey. It's you going through those steps in life are what make you who you are. And it's not, if you just sit there and look for this end goal all the time, you're going to miss it.
Absolutely. And I love how in the story he does meet an alchemist, the Alchemist, and the Alchemist tells, and this is at the same time that he meets the Alchemist, which is like the final point to to finding his personal legend. He also finds love, and the Alchemist tells him, hey, if you stay here and you do not follow your personal legend after the first year, you'll have a great first year getting married and becoming the council of the Oasis, and then the second year, you'll start to see those almonds, or continue to see the almonds of your personal legend showing you the direction, and you'll continue to, not listen to them, but continue to provide counsel, and you'll become rich, and you'll have a fleet of camels and sheep, and then the third year something else happens. But by the fourth year, the omens are like, fuck you, I'm not gonna, and then you'll lose your position as the council of the Oasis, but then you'll be rich by that time. So but your personal legend will be lost, and your heart will always be, empty, or your soul will always be kind of, you'll never have attained what you could have, what would have fulfilled you as a person.
So it's really big on destiny, is the...
It is, yeah,
theme
absolutely, absolutely. They that's, directly spoken of is destiny, and how it's not a set thing necessarily.
But it's destiny.
No, but you can change your destiny. If you do this now, this is your destiny. If you continue to do this, this is your destiny. But if you change it, you can change your destiny. I don't think that a destiny is like a transfixed or a...
So you're not going into like a
fixed,
fatalist, like fixed, it's this, or it's over kind of thing. There are paths.
It's a good old Goosebumps story where you can choose, path A, jump to the
choose your own adventure story.
Yeah, exactly. Just, how do I die the quickest in this story? I don't want to read a lot,
Stupid UFO 187. In order to get to the paradise in that one, you had to cheat and just turn to the page that says you arrive in paradise, because it was literally unattainable.
That's great.
It's like the most meta thing in any of those your choose your own adventure books ever. When I was a kid, I was like, this is bullshit. I don't think there's a way to get there. And then sure enough, 30 years later, I'm sitting on the internet going through YouTube videos, and there's a YouTube video explaining that, and I'm like, son of a bitch, I was right! It was a conspiracy. Anyway, you go on.
So, no.
I like the omen part. I think it shows that we need to pay attention to what's happening around us, and that there are these subtle signs that can kind of give you a direction to, achieve. I wouldn't quite call it a destiny, but it's, that's, for lack of a better word, it's sort of that. But, really paying attention to, where things are pushing you to go, and I think that's what you saw with the omens, where you just, and it's funny. I mean, you look at some of these things, and it's a crow flying or something, and that's an omen, and that means something, to the alchemist, or some of those types of people in those stories. And,
right.
It's a fascinating way to live life, just to keep that perspective.
But I mean, and it is just it's true when your heart's telling you something, you should listen to that and not bury it, and you shouldn't be afraid to seek out what you perceive as your path. Your heart will choose the right path for you if you listen to it. I think that's true. I think that's real life. And so yeah, I love this book. That's all I have to say about it. Let me get it up here. But I hope that everybody reads it. It was a great book.
Very cool.
And thanks for reading along, listeners and readers.
Moving into our next segment here, we've got Nick. How do you say your last name? Is it Weiland?
Weiland.
Weiland.
Yep.
Awesome. Perfect.
First time right. Wow.
Hey,
Love it.
it's amazing. I word good. Me word good.
Names.
Scott still calls me Weiland. I've known him
Nice.
for 5 years.
That's okay. I will do it again by the end of the interview. Trust me. So, you are running for city council at large. Why are you running? Why you do that?
Right. Well, listen, I think everybody should run for office if they have the opportunity, whatever it is. If it's dog catcher, if it's for city council, legislature, people need to get involved, and I can't just sit here and not have people get involved. And that's, you gotta do it yourself if that's what you believe in, and that's what I think got me into the race. What got me into the if it's just the climate in our national politics, if it's peer or if it's city council, it all seems so similar, and we all have the same types of issues going on. They're just at different levels, and the municipal elections really have as much, if not more, sometimes pull on your daily life.
Yeah, I'm always arguing that with people when they're like, they only vote in like presidential election, and I'm like, are you shitting me? He has the least say in your day-to-day of all the people you're going to vote for.
Right. It only takes a few councilors and a good mayor to really do a lot of good things in a municipal environment.
Or the opposite can happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it just takes a few.
That is also an
and
option.
one very controlling mayor
Failure is an option.
to have a lot of corruption.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at our state on a whole, does that surprise you?
No, because I've been looking at the state for 4 years, at least the political wise, and no, these motherfuckers do not care about the majority. They care about their voters, because the majority of us don't vote. So there's your fucking problem. Sorry. But that's for the past 4 years. We've always talked about the low turnout here, especially for the local elections, and it's just people don't understand that you need to vote. Even business owners, people that are starting businesses, they don't realize that this is important, and I shouldn't just bury my feelings towards these political things. I need to tell my neighbors and my friends and the people that wouldn't necessarily like to hear it. I don't want to. Don't be a crusader to. Don't pontificate your point and be a dick about it and start telling people that don't really want to listen. But you should kind of express yourself in those. You should express yourself, express your opinions towards your local politics with the people in your community, because you want to have a discussion about that if it's important to you, and see if it's important to other people, but also be ready for compromise. So, there's just...
I think you're seeing more of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Online, even rallies, all these places, you're seeing more interaction, more discussion. I had a friend of mine just the other day tell me I was the first liberal that she's ever been able to have a civil conversation with, and
we need that.
We do need that.
Yeah.
I sat down with Mike Gunn, who we are very opposite sides of the spectrum, but we had a good conversation. He even endorsed me on Facebook. So you gotta get above partisan politics, and that's what we tried to do with Amendment V. Hopefully, is it Amendment W or U this go around, which is another another initiative to take the R, the D, the I off.
And I'm for that. Rob isn't. I'm for that because
That's how our municipal elections are run.
Yeah, but I feel like voters should have all the information and more information, not less information in an election. And unless you're going to actually make the statewide elections non-partisan, then it doesn't make sense to not list that party affiliation. That's just my piece on that.
Sure. I get it.
I mean, if you're misinformed, that's what you walk into the fucking thing with, and I hope you vote for a Democrat when you wanted a Republican. That's what I'm looking for. I'm doing this out of spite and out of, just, and I'm sure it's not the perspective you're taking, because I'm sure you have a bit more civilized and, rational sort of...
Seth Malice,
Sure.
2020.
Yes, exactly. That's me. I'm, casting shade, and I want to make some people kind of pissed off. Because I don't want these, old ladies to be voted for Republican. I'm sorry, not old ladies, but old people. Old people who don't fucking know shit, who are just putting the check next to the R and just, walking in and walking out. That's what I don't want, and that's what, if you're senile and you fucking vote for...
But Seth, how will they keep Sharia from happening on their street
Yeah, go to Brown County Fair. There's all sorts of Sharia law going on.
Yeah, I know.
Crazy fuck that I don't remember his name, but I don't need to, and I don't want to. That guy, we all know who we're talking about.
Yeah, Tapio.
Yeah, Tapio.
That's who that is? No, the dude that was putting up doing the seminars and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
That guy. That NPR did a story on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, different guy, sorry.
Different guy. Yeah. Tapio's hasn't been that bold.
He's been worse. He's said worse things, I think.
Right, but he hasn't, has he put out, a call to action?
Yes.
Hey, come out and,
He is running for the U.S. House on a platform of evil.
Yeah, he really is.
Huh. Alright,
He is literally running, gentlemen, to evil.
Well, why am I surprised in South Dakota that we could confuse, if I start saying, that one evil guy? There's so much confusion. There's so many to
which
choose
white
from.
supremacist who is, mainstream accepted here are we talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, that guy who hates the people that aren't like him. In South Dakota?
What? Never. Sorry. Sorry, Nick. We can get on
our
soapbox on that.
diversity
Or
acceptance.
just, exactly, the acceptance. It's not like we need, to have affirmative action type shit, which isn't bad, get elected and that's fine. But, we do need to have, a civil sort of, hey, these immigrants are great, they help South Dakota, and we need to be open to Muslims and let them, have freedom here and not be open to persecution of any kind, but that's, yeah, and there's also LGBTQITILOPQRA and allies. Sorry. But, we can't fucking be putting up these bathroom bills, the people who are fucking doing that definitely need to be voted out. I mean, they're all the baby boomers and up.
They take away the initiative process and at the same time, they're doing a lot right now in Pierre to disrupt.
More bullshit.
What are you saying?
I said they're doing a lot of bullshit.
They are. It's awful. It's really awful.
They're waging a punitive war against the voters and their ability to use the initiative process.
That'll backfire.
I hope so. It has to, right?
Pendulums swing. They always swing. Wasn't that long ago we had Seth, Daschle, and Johnson all in office. It wasn't that long ago. And, Mickelson's going to overstep his bounds if he hasn't already. And you'll have people upset. I think the thing the Democrats need to do is figure out how to get independents riled up with them and to openly accept them, because I think that's an issue in our state.
Absolutely. Let's see. Next question. This is a listener one. What are you going to do to protect public input? Well,
public input is... there are two schools of thought, I think, right now in city politics. It's public input versus the lack of public input are pretty close to. And I think one of the best things we could do is offer some more transparent, obviously, but...
we have a question about transparency further on.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, specifically the public input portion.
I think participatory budgeting is something that I would like to get out there to people, have them understand what that process is. And basically what that does is allows the taxpayer to vote and even bring projects to City Hall to get them funded, directly. It is a process. You brainstorm, you develop. It's put up to a vote, which can go online. Which why isn't everything online? I know people.
Amen.
Yeah. Seriously, digitizing's huge. I think the other
have a company here in Sioux Falls do the digitizing.
Yes, absolutely.
What?
No more outsourcing.
Crazy talk.
Yeah.
We gotta find... I'm sure there's a nice organization in North Carolina that will do it for 3 times the price.
Yeah, 3 times the price, and they're experts 50 miles away.
Yeah.
You gotta keep it local. All of these things. If you can find a local business, you have to go... I just don't see... I don't know. I mean, and unfortunately, that process is usually behind closed doors, and you don't really see what happens until it comes out, and you just see the one proposal. You don't see everything else that was put up against it. So
sure.
So I think the public input's really huge, and I think if we can get, even if we can get the city website to actually function correctly, because to me, it does not. I own Apple products. I can't download half the things that they have up there. If it's minutes or the video links from CityLink, it's just a archaic system.
The city spends a fortune putting out the city news and updates and stuff like that, and I'd love to be able to cover that more on our blog. And they're the only local government I've ever seen that spends that much money on news and PR and doesn't have an RSS feed set up. You literally they've made it so that it's much harder to access the stuff you paid for them to generate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think CityLink's a good example of how we could get more of the information of what's happening at City Hall out to people, and it's not updated. It needs to be updated, and it needs to have a clearer mission, which is to educate the voters. Like I think Scott said somewhere, Irishman, why isn't CityLink broadcasting that we have an election?
Yeah, and that you should be, registered to vote, and instructions for how to do it, a map of the precincts. Yeah, that is a great question. Why not?
So those are, I think public input's huge. I think you got to expand on it, digitize things, let people watch the meetings at home and comment somehow, or get that public input in there that the councilors and the mayor actually can get some feedback.
If YouTube stars can handle questions while they're doing a live video cast, then I think that our elected officials can take a swing at 1 or 2 of them.
Yep.
I think you're bringing modern common sense and modern convenience into the idea of, like you're saying, public input. Public input is important, and we have these new channels that aren't being used, and
they're being used everywhere else.
Right, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. Everything except for government. That's the one place where you are safe from change, apparently. So that's what we need is
well, and I think that goes into a lot of different areas too. Even building permits and digitizing that whole process can save money.
Yes,
saves time, saves money. And you get you're using technology to run a better city, give people a better life, because you're not wasting money as we are today.
This guy gets it.
Do you sign my petition later?
Sure, man. Man.
Keeping in that theme, what would you do to increase government transparency?
Sure. Transparency is huge right now. I think everybody's talking about it, and a lot of it, comes to some of these contracts, if it's for a TIF or an RFP, and being able to see those contracts, but that didn't win, I think will increase some of that transparency. Government shouldn't be behind closed doors. If there is some sort of a national threat, sure. But government doesn't need to be behind closed doors. It should be open. Everything that's happening should be open. Investors, if you're going to do business with the city and you're an investor, you need to tell the public who those investors are, be upfront with that. I think that's a huge problem that we're having, especially with some of the developers and the relationship that the city has with them. Obviously, there's I think a new law on the books. Did they pass that in Pierre?
Which one was that?
The transparency. It was really
No, if you're talking about the one I think you're talking about, they killed it.
Did they kill it?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, because that was a response to Sioux Falls and what's been happening, but I'm not okay with Pierre, doing anything about transparency. They took out Amendment 22, and they wanted, they declared it a state of emergency. Well, that doesn't seem right to me, and so why would I want them to write the rules?
It was costing their friends money. That's an emergency, man.
Right. Well, you saw a lot of people, I think Christy Nome and Jackley both got in way ahead of time because of that bill passing.
Yep. I remember, because it was just like, oh, I guess they're jumping in now.
Is there anything else about transparency that...
Just a little bit, specifically, some of these, committee meetings, and obviously, you need executive session for, HR, personnel kind of things. But what specifically would you do? Are there certain types of meetings you think should be out there? Or there's some documents right now that are sealed that you'd like, out there more?
Well,
you mentioned, business deals and disclosing, investors and stuff like that. But even, earlier in the process, I don't know, this isn't the listener question, but I kind of wonder about even, and maybe we'll get into this later, but the whole process with the you're allowed to give input on that topic when it's the second reading,
right.
But not the first reading,
right.
And the second reading's the night when they've all already been talking about it for 2 weeks and are just ready to vote and get out of there.
Yep.
And so what you're saying
to the first reading, if not, how can we get these out to people for that even, especially the counselors, they're getting some of these ordinances and a few days before they have to vote on them.
Yeah, which, that may fly in Congress, but not, it shouldn't fly in our city council. Neither one of those is a good thing, but especially
Well, I do think you could move it to the first reading, but I think you got to do more than that.
Right? Yeah. Let's see. What are your goals if you're elected?
Sure. I probably have 5 major goals. I'll probably touch on maybe 3 of them. I think jobs and wages are really important today. I think you're seeing that issue all across America, and Sioux Falls could really tackle this here at home in our municipal elections. I'm a business owner. I know how hard it is to make payroll. It is hard. We struggle to make payroll sometimes. I mean, it is businesses fluctuate, and so and we pay our people well, and I think that's a testament to just our values. Is just being able to, you get a better employee when you pay somebody a good wage, and I think on the council, there's a few things you can do. I think you could do a municipal minimum wage, and I think we need to start talking about that and figuring out how to make that work for businesses and for people. I don't know how you make it on $15 an hour. I think that's tough. Now, I think there's a room for a training wage, room for a kid wage, I suppose. You look at Minnesota, and they have quite a few different ways to offset some of those costs to businesses as they train and what have you. So I think wages are huge. Jobs, bringing in companies that pay well, is huge. Embracing technology. We don't have any wind turbines that close to Sioux Falls. I think we should. Solar, all these things are technologies we're teaching our kids, but we don't incorporate. So bringing jobs in, transparency, like I said, public safety, I think is a huge issue in America today and in Sioux Falls. We need to rethink how we're doing this. Let's get some help on the front end with mental illnesses and making sure, just feeding our kids in school actually has a huge impact on crime down the road. If we can get kids to get engaged in school, eat well, they're not getting into as much trouble, and they're actually setting themselves up for a good life. I think what we want is as many of us to do as well as possible. To me, that's what America is all about. I touched on green a little bit. I'm a huge proponent of green technologies and, trying to get some solar panels back in, to be installed in Sioux Falls wind, even geothermal. There's a lot of different ways that we can tackle that issue, and that's something that municipalities can do in Sioux Falls.
Right.
And so you're frustrated with Trump getting out of the Paris Agreement. Well, we can tackle that here in Sioux Falls. You're frustrated with people not being paid well. We can tackle that here. But we need a strong economy, and I think we have a strong economy. But it can be a lot better, and it should be for everybody, not just some of us.
When you say we have a good economy, Sioux Falls is growing very rapidly. Are you concerned at all about the tax revenue being pretty light and weak right now?
Oh, well, we don't have an income tax. Of course, that's statewide. That's not anything you can do in the city government. But we don't have an income tax, and we tax food.
Yeah.
Those to me, I don't get that, and so I am worried, and we'll have to see what happens with the Supreme Court, because there's going to be the I don't know when that is, but they're trying a case on whether we can take money from internet sales, tax
from businesses that don't have brick and mortar in the state.
Right. So I think that'll change possibly what happens, where we can, I was just listening to Reynold Neseba talking about a bill that he's going to bring to Pier that basically takes if we raise $20 million in tax revenue, it'll take a percentage off the tax on food. And we'll see how that goes, because obviously Sioux Falls and South Dakota, we just don't have our tax revenue where it needs to be. And I am worried about that.
Yeah, and then we can go on a whole tangent about all the free trade agreements that are getting shot in the leg right now, affecting, commodities like corn and beef, which are kind of a big deal in South Dakota.
Oh yeah, huge. It is.
So that was one of your goals. Did you have any others you wanted to jump into while we're in this question?
Yeah, I think some of the other things that I really want to bring to the city council, or at least more of a voice of, are walkability and the ability, and mass transit. I think those are huge issues as we start to grow. We want to bring young people here. We want to keep them here. I don't think we're doing that great of a job keeping them here, and we need to do a lot better. Walkability is huge. If you can get around in a bus system, don't have to have a car, live downtown, have beautiful green spaces that are incorporated downtown, I think that does a lot. I helped a little bit with the Main Avenue Road Diet. Someone had brought us in a picture of a New York restaurant, and just like they took out a parking space and they put tables there with a kind of a built-up railing and everything, and we brought it to the city, and I didn't expect a lot from it, right? And I think a year or two later, they came back with the road diet, which, and I'm not saying it was, I did all that. My mom and I talked about it, and, they must have had something in the plans already, but they took out a whole lane, brought in more spaces like we have at Parker's, which is a deck outside. Mackenzie River got one. I think the Architecture Inc. had a space. And it slows down traffic a little bit. So our kids that are going to the dance studio aren't getting hit. We don't have a three-way highway out of downtown. So walkability, mass transit. I have a friend named, his name's Jeff, and he relies on, mass transit like you wouldn't believe. And he really was upset because he doesn't have a ton of money.
I was going to say, that's rough in Sioux Falls.
It is rough. It's really rough, and that quarter increase, I think, I can't remember when that was exactly, but he was upset about that. I mean, people are pinching pennies right now, and I don't see our government sticking up for those people like they really should.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I will never get over that they raised the tax on the handicap, or not the tax, but the cost of the handicap vans or transportation.
That's what he was talking about, actually.
Yeah.
Paratransit.
Paratransit.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep.
Yeah. That's just crazy to me that you'd raise the costs of the people that are they don't have a way of making more money.
Hey, they're just welfare queens who've had it too good for too long, right?
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm being facetious, obviously, but that's the way it feels sometimes. Yeah. So, any other goals before we move on to the next question? I think we've done 2 of your 5.
Well, public safety, I think, is going to be really big, especially as we grow.
Sure.
We're growing really fast, and I think what you're seeing is some of those growing pains coming out today. I'd like to see more funding put into the front end of some of those growth problems. If it's helping with mental illness and drug addiction on the front end, not necessarily incarcerating everybody. Incarcerating everybody doesn't do anybody any good, other than the
privatized prisons.
Exactly. I think that's something we need to start addressing. It's not the most popular issue, I think, with 55-year-olds, but if you look at the younger generation, people are just like, okay, come on, guys. I mean, this is...
Yeah, we need to end all this privatized prison. I mean, if people are getting paid off of the imprisonment of others, that is not just.
It's kind of a tangent, but we talk about, the young people, like, their trend on all sorts of issues, like LGBTQ, prisons, drugs, things like that. There's all these issues where the divide between the old and the young is like night and day. What do you guys think the tipping point is?
When they die.
But I mean, like,
20 years.
So you think like 20 years?
Nah, 10. I think that the people that are like in middle school right now are going to be really heavy voters.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a resurgence in being a
active participant?
Active citizen, yeah.
There you go.
And yeah, there's going to be
Civic
a
life.
shift to, like the, I don't know, I mean, I'm guessing that it will be like the early 20th century of, not, hopefully there's not another World War to bring us together like that, but I think that the younger kids right now are going to be focused on being involved in their government and making sure that their government isn't choking them, just got them around the neck, or bending them over the table, however you want to say it, just controlling them and just using them as they would be used. So yeah, I think that they're going to be more active voters, and then I also think that the people that are running that aren't 50 and up are going to hopefully be doing it for the to seeing what the problems are now and then trying to fix those. That's the main thing that I want out of people that are running now, is to see these fucking problems because they're evident, and to try and fix them, and to have a spine when you get there, and to, no matter what, piss people off, whatever, dude. It's you got to stand up for the truth and the honesty, or I mean the truth and the best interest of the people that you're representing.
Authentic. And I was a huge Bernie supporter, and that's what I liked about Bernie. He was authentic. Sure, some of those are probably pipe dreams. That's fine. I don't care. He was authentic, and he's been saying it for 50 years. And I think that's one of the problems that we see in a lot of politics today, is that people, one, maybe do it for the wrong reasons, but they aren't able to show that authenticity and that real drive to make, living in America great again. It's true, though. I mean, you see that when people care, and to me, Bernie is just one of those people that, sure, he's probably a grumpy old man when you meet him face to face, but he's been saying a lot of the right things for a long time, and I think the American people agree with a lot of them, on the left and the right.
I think the populism on both the little soapbox for me, I think that right now, the populism that Trump used and that Bernie was harnessing, I think it's still laying there on the table, and I don't think Trump embraced it, and he's losing it, and, Bernie didn't use it. Somebody said, 2 years ago, they were like, boy, you're going to really hope that if you're a Republican, you really want Bernie Sanders to win, because God help you, the guy who will come after him if this stuff doesn't get resolved. And that's what I'm waiting for, is I think there's a third rail that's going to pick up that populism on both sides who are just fed up with it. Because really, to quote Nixon of all freaking people, but you've got this silent majority of people who are, Reason put out this thing about how, people aren't actually as polarized as you think. No. And it's a lot of them in the middle agree on so much, and I think someone's going to pick up that populist sword and just run it through the middle of everything. I keep wondering when that's going to happen. No,
I agree. It's interesting. My dad and Gordon Howie were kind of populists on the extreme, on opposite extremes, and we ended up getting to know Gordon, and there's a lot of things that you're like, well, yeah, we're saying, we all get it. We all get that the gap between the rich and the poor is just too wide, and that the poor do not have what they need to live a good life and be a good contributing member of society. It's in the best interest of all of us to not have people that are starving, and to have people that are educated. And it seems like in South Dakota, a lot of times, those things aren't a priority. They're, it's the opposite of one. I think this populism thing is what is you're gonna see in the future, that is what's gonna be what is the change agent, and it transcends a political divide somewhat. Social issues are always going to be social issues, and I think the youth vote seems to have made their mind up on social issues. I think that battle's almost over. There's going to be some of those issues that stick, obviously, but boy, that's only like 5% of it. We agree on so much more, and that's what we're not getting at. We need to, be able to talk to the people that disagree with us, and not just have a shouting match. And Democrats shouldn't just bash Trump all the time. Give me an idea. Give me a
amen.
Exactly. If you have a problem with something, don't just point at the problem and say that's the problem. Present a plan to how to resolve that problem. I mean, if you're looking at that problem and you're annoyed by it, you must have some ideas of how to fix it. So present that in your presentation of this is the problem. Don't just say this is the problem.
There was a line in the premiere of this new Showtime cartoon, this Our Cartoon President, and there's a point in it where, the whole thing is very left and super, super bashing Trump, like all the way through it. But there's a part where he's meeting with the Democrats, and he's sitting there across from Pelosi and Schumer, and at the very end of the conversation where they just made him look like an idiot, he's like, meanwhile, what the hell is... who's in charge of your party right now? It's like watching a seagull fight over a potato chip. And I was just like, yes, that's the fucking Democrats right now. You just sit there like, man, Trump is really screwing up. And you know what? If the Democrats had a charismatic, strong leader, and not just the next person who's in line to run for president, they would be just mopping the floor with him. He's so vulnerable. Yeah. And the only reason he keeps moving forward is the vacuum of the Democrats.
I know. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and unfortunately democracy really doesn't work that well when you don't have some conflict and equal conflict. I mean, look at peer. It's so disproportional. Wow, what do Democrats even do in that situation?
Last legislative coffee that I went to, I want to say it was like 6 or 7 Republicans, and then at the far left end of the table was the one poor Democrat who's like, I think we shouldn't use the poor people as mulch for, overpass gardens. And they're just like, shut up, hippie! It wasn't quite that bad. But seriously, it was just like one Democrat and like a sea of Republicans. And my understanding is that like 2 or 3 of them that should have been there instead went to that little snowflake coffee that the Minnehaha County Republicans put together so that they wouldn't have to answer like tough questions that would make their heads hurt. So yeah, sorry, I'm on a soapbox about that shit because that's so shitty. But anyway, this isn't about me. It's about you, and it's about the city. Let's get out of the partisan shit. Let's get down to a real question, man. A real question, Nick.
Have you ever been to a rodeo?
Boy, I've been close to one.
What?
Yeah, I've been close to a rodeo.
That question just brings more questions than answers. I think that's the weirdest response I could have thought of. Like, I've been. Did it like pass you by and you narrowly avoided it, or what?
There was one in Deadwood, and we got really close, but we didn't sit there and like watch the rodeo.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to where was it? It was in Yankton, and they were selling the hogs, and they were bringing them in. Have you ever seen this? They have these huge gates, and they run these huge bulls through, or what have you, and or whole herds of them, and that was probably as close as I've been.
Did you grow up in Sioux Falls?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say
both of us are like an auction barn. You're talking about a sales barn, a thing that like I probably saw in my childhood once a week.
I played cards there. On the weekends. Man.
Yeah.
So
no, I've lived about half my life in Sioux Falls.
Okay. I suppose we can let Rob get to his serious question. Yeah. Sorry, I have to ask current council members and future council members, or what I hope to be, if they've ever been to a rodeo, because it's South Dakota.
But we're in Sioux Falls.
And also, I'm from Burke, and we have the best rodeo.
Do you know Billy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did his first video. I went out.
Yeah, if you've been watching this series at all, it's a running gag that every other shameless plug is Billy, and every other Seth is. I think you're basically his campaign manager at this point, de facto.
Something like that. Yeah. Susie, I got this. Another girl that's from Burke, or another person that's from Burke, and she is like the something like the head campaign manager of the Democrats in Pierre.
She stepped down to help run Billy's campaign.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah, another person from Burke. So,
it's the Burke plot. Burke is gonna take over. We're gonna be the state of Burke, and we'll have the Burke flag, and
we'll turn it back to the Bulldogs instead of the Cougars, and there we go. Basically, Burke, joined with other schools in the area.
School mascots.
Right.
Okay.
So our football team was combined,
up.
And we went from Bulldogs to Cougars, South Central Cougars.
That's not bad.
Burke and Bowen still fair.
We were Warriors and then went Warbirds because that was already what our consolidated football team was with Wolsey. So then when we merged with Wolsey, they just went with Warbirds, which saved them a whole bunch of bad blood and whatnot with the whole mascot thing down the road. But this was 10 years before that became a thing. So
serious question: what should Sioux Falls' mascot be? Should it be the Canary? Should it be the Storm? Should it be just? But okay. Seriously, if it had a mascot, well, actually, you wouldn't have a mascot. You'd have a building. You'd have the spire.
Oh yeah, my spire. Yes.
Which would be fitting. An evil lair.
How about the falls?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the landmark that is in the name of the town. that chestnut. Yeah. So no, getting on to my very serious question here. Okay, so I'm going to present you with a hypothetical here. You're driving down a dark road on a stormy night. You're groggy, your vision is getting a little blurry, and as you round the corner you see a squirrel in the middle of the road playing a tiny magic glass flute. What do? Do you swerve and take the ditch in order to miss the squirrel? Or do you hit the squirrel?
I always swerve. Yeah.
Okay.
I always swerve for the squirrels.
I do not try and run them over either.
Not to mention, the squirrel has a magic flute, and where's that going to take me?
Right? So. Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
All right.
Thank you.
So, I always, I felt so bad when I, hit a squirrel, and I haven't done it for a while, but yeah, I don't like to do it.
Yeah, I mean, somebody ran over our squirrel, and then your tree doesn't have a squirrel for a few years,
right.
And it's damn it. Somebody ran over my squirrel. Don't run over animals, people. You fucking pricks. Somebody ran over my cat in high school. Didn't kill it.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But, yeah. Anyway.
Next question.
So, wait. Part B.
What's part B?
What's the first thing you say to the squirrel when you get out? No, alright, I'll stop.
Do I get 3 wishes?
So, yeah, you get out, you're in the ditch, and then you get out, and then there's the squirrel.
That's just how the story ends.
Damn it, I wanted a part B. Go ahead, Rob. I'll stop.
You can, in the land of imagination, you can paint your own, ending to that.
Alright, well, that's a lot of work.
I'm going to ask that of every candidate. And then on an episode after the election or down the road when everyone's had a chance at it, I will explain the inside joke about the story. There's 5 guys in Minnesota that know me, they're listening to that, who are laughing their asses off at that I'm asking that question. Anyway, little self-service. When you own the podcast, you get some perks and privileges. This is one of them. It's a personal indulgence. Okay. Other than expanding police, what would you do to proactively respond to rising crime?
Sure. I think we can focus on our hot spots a little better.
Okay.
That's something that you'll see in a lot of... so it's using our police force a little smarter, targeting those areas, I think. And of course, that does a little better probably in a bigger city than it does for ours, but I think the principle still holds true. Community reach, community, getting involved and talk, I mean, we're talking about technology and the ability to get some of this information out. Like, well, Vernon Brown just the other day, I think, put a photo of, I think there was like a knife or something outside of his house, and it looked like somebody had like been dragged off or something. It was weird. And he posted on Facebook, and to me, the best way to combat a lot of this is with our the community and the ability to share a picture, and how does that just help all of our community be a safer place. We also need to, a lot of we have a problem with people feeling safe talking to the police, especially the minorities. We need some outreach towards the minorities and trying to come up with a more common sense solution to try to just build those relationships. I think, and this might get me into a little trouble, but when we're seeing these, okay, so you look at Colorado legalized recreational marijuana. It drove the cartel out, right? And it increased funding. So that there's something to that. I don't want to go too far down that road because it can get me in trouble, but we need to look in a different way with crime, and we're not. And we're just gonna, a lot of these people just want to increase police officers. They just want to increase incarceration rates. That's failed. That doesn't work. We're not making our society that much safer doing any of that. We should be focusing on the front end. We should get into the kids and telling them why life is so much better when you don't have some of these problems that you see in a lot of people. Our meth problem is a problem, a huge problem. But our opiates are just as bad, and those are affecting everybody. That's anyone from who you would imagine would be addicted to opiates to your grandpa or your grandma. I mean, it can stem that. And then I had a friend who passed away, and so much of that was his story, that he was put on pain meds and then taken off them, and then what that did to his life was really bad. So I think we got to start looking at a different way of addressing all those problems.
And you're not saying it, so I'm not going to put words into your mouth or anything. I think to be reserved on this whole front of the persecution for addiction, on that front, just to be reserved, I'd say that I hope that within the next 4 years we have medical marijuana legalized here, and that's my, I care a lot about that. I mean, but I don't want to put it above just lessening prisons and lessening the benefits to others for imprisoning people, citizens.
And that goes to just not putting nonviolent offenders in jail.
Exactly.
I mean, there's an interim step there that we can start to do.
Decriminalize marijuana, because, if you're putting people in jail for an ounce or 2 ounces of marijuana or whatever, and they have it in 2 baggies, and so that you give them distribution, they have, no upward fucking mobility at that point, because you can't get student loans. If you're already poor, if you're already, in a difficult, precarious position, then getting this sort of a drug charge, or getting any drug charge for something as stupid as marijuana, can take your life, completely off the track, even if you were going to change it at some point. And that happens. People are, can be shitty people when they're early 20s, and then be great, and change
Who wasn't
things.
a stupid shithead when they were a teenager, honestly?
Right. And so...
some of us still are.
But if you look at places like, I think it's Portugal, where every drug is decriminalized, they, and that goes with the opioid.
Yeah, drugs would just...
Exactly. If people then, are, because it's not something that you're going to get thrown in jail for, it's something that people that are ready for a change and then don't want to, be be addicted and, you know, slave to this molecule, they'll be a little bit more secure in searching for help and actually fixing that, and then getting to the root of the problem and, you know, finding real solutions rather than you're going to sit this one out for the next 3 years and waste time and just be angry and, you know, fester some evil and to bring out when you get out. That's all that the prison system does, and will ever do if it is as it is now. It does nothing as far as the rehabilitation. So, yeah, that's something that, you know, yeah, it's gonna piss off a lot of people, and you can't sell it for anything more than marijuana to South Dakota right now. Right. So that's what you need to focus on, is decriminalize that, you know, piss people off as much as you can, and as far as that goes, because I think that you have enough voter support that I think that, you know, we would pass it if it comes along again.
Mm-hmm. Should be on the ballot this year.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But you're seeing a lot of crime coming from those interactions. You know, the drug on drug crime, and it's not going anywhere. It's not going to go somewhere if you increase the penalty. I just don't see it going anywhere. The war on drugs failed a long time ago.
It seems like if you make it more difficult, that just drives up the price and the overhead, and therefore the drive that someone must fill that void in the market.
Yep.
And will make that much more money from it.
Yep.
Well, and that's the thing about South Dakota, is that it's so remote that sellers love to sell here. You know, that's where you want to bring it, is places like South Dakota, Montana, you know, that are kind of removed from, they don't really have a lot of big metropolitan areas like Denver or wherever, or wherever, but I mean, it's where you basically have a much greater access to weed. Like that's areas like South Dakota, you can charge a lot higher prices. I mean, you go to California, you can get, you know, an ounce for $60, or Denver, ounce for $60. Here, you know, a seller could make $300 or sell it for $300 or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, so I mean, that's the thing, is that if you create these safe havens for criminal capitalism, you know, then that's what will occur.
What are you talking about?
Right. So I mean, yeah, if you're basically creating the market, and creating it unfairly for the guys who just want to get high. But that's the thing, is that you're just you're emboldening the sellers to make their profits.
And a lot of times that money's going to cartels. You know, it's going to organized crime.
I mean, you know, it's like 2 stories of like kids shooting at each other and killing each other over drugs.
Yeah.
In the past 2 years. I mean, what?
It's with startling regularity. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to stop that and curtail that, and it's not by harsher penalties on, you know, the simplest of drugs, or the most innocuous of drugs. That's what it is. It's not harmful.
Alcohol and cigarettes are the gateway drug. That's what most...
Those are the legal ones that you can get, that you can do, that you have access to, that's completely legal, that, yeah.
But powerful people make money off those, so they have to be good.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah. One last question for you before we jump into the shameless plugs here, Nick.
I think I might have my own shameless plug if you let me.
That's
I guess.
Sacred territory.
Okay. Why should I specifically vote for you over any other candidate for at large?
Sure.
B.
I think something that I hope to bring to City Council is a voice for the people, and I don't think we have as much of that as we need. There are a few council members that I'm really happy that they're there and they've been making a strong impact in City Hall, but I think we need more of that. I think we have an opportunity to really change Sioux Falls today. The things that if I was why should you vote for me? Well, I'm honest. I'll always sit there and listen. I think that's one of my the best parts about a lot of this is just listening to what people have to say. I don't think I'm right all the time. I might think I'm right all the time, but I know I'm not. I think people need to really get beyond being so divided just by a few issues. I would like to see more transparency. I think if you want to vote for me, it's because you want to see transparency, because you want to move forward, bring Sioux Falls into the 21st century digitally, bringing green jobs, bringing good tech jobs. If those are the kinds of things that if you're more of a progressive, I'm your guy. I'm progressive. I've always, had this just, I think it started off with environmental awareness. And before that, it was politics growing up, obviously. But my first passion was environment. And then, I slowly got into cultural things and people and understanding systems and I think that's what we need. I think we need leaders that aren't necessarily wanting to be in those positions. I don't think that always makes the best leader. I think sometimes the best leaders are ones that are really hesitant to do that and to put themselves out there. They're not. They just have a different perspective. It's not just about them. It's about us, and I think that's the hopefully the change that people see and want.
Awesome.
The Sioux Empire Podcast proudly presents this week's Shameless Plugs.
Alrighty, here we go. Nick, this is the part of the show where you can get up on a soapbox and you got your website, social media, whatever you promoting. Are you like running for something? I don't know. If you got anything like that going on in your background, now's the time to just go ahead and shamelessly promote it.
Right. Check out WeilandForCityCouncil.com. I have a lot of information up there. I keep building it as much as I can. I'm also on Facebook. That's where I do, friend me, my personal page too, as long as, and also the city page. But you get a lot of good conversation going on Facebook. I think that's what we need today. If you see this back and forth that we're seeing, I think, online, and this is what, I listen to a podcast every morning, every night. The ability to get this information out in front of people has never been like this. You can't, I can sit there and take a DSLR camera and create an innovative ad that gets out in front of people and it can even get to millions of people. That has not happened before in our existence, or in humans' ability. I think the things that we need to see in Sioux Falls are transparency in government. We need to see people being, involved and listened to, and creating the process, feeling some ownership with city government again. And I think that's just what we need to fight for. So Weiland at citycouncil.com. Find me on Facebook. I know I need a Twitter account. I set one up a long time ago, but I'm not active on it.
Don't worry about it.
It's not that big here.
No, it's not.
No.
Facebook adoption over Twitter in this market is still almost 80%.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. During the my dad's Senate race, it was so fun because it started to get national.
Yeah.
And I would just sit there and follow the hashtag that everybody was using, and it was just crazy. So I usually get into Twitter a couple times.
Twitter is awesome for live events like the debates and stuff like that. Love it for that.
Yeah.
But just the day-to-day like posting, it's like, especially in South Dakota, your audience is on Facebook.
Yeah. And I think you're seeing a lot of the campaigns utilize that. And that's what they need to do.
Well, even a lot of, like municipal government, you shouldn't have to have like a giant elaborate political machine to run for city council.
No.
And so I think it's nice that with Facebook you could have basically a web page for yourself for free that's super easy to manage. And, I'm one of the crazy people who would go all out. I'd have like all of it, you know me. And, so website, domain, custom emails, all that crap.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't need that to run.
No, and you can do, like I said, when you have a camera, that's a huge part of the expense of running a campaign is producing ads, producing content to get out there. Sometimes it costs $20,000 just for one shoot. That's, most places. But when you have a camera and you can do that in-house, that changes it just changes the game. So I know we're, shameless plugs, right? Well, I watch Shameless. I love the show, and one of the kids was sitting down with an MIT recruit, and this kid doesn't want to go to school. He's smarter than anybody you've ever met, just does not want to go to school, and he writes his essay because he hadn't really written one, and doesn't really want to go to class. He just wants to go to the lab. And the thing that he turns around and he says, and I'm not going to say it like he did, but basically these, nothing great happens incrementally. If you look at Einstein and Steve Jobs, those are big changes. Look at what those did to our society. The Industrial Revolution. You think the weavers knew that the steam engine was going to just totally disrupt their business? No, they did not. They didn't have a clue. And look at what that did. That continues to happen. It's the beauty of what humans are able to do as a society is improve our life. And I want to see some of those changes hit in government again, and in our private sector, in our whole way we live here in Sioux Falls. And I think we're ready for that. I think there's something that will come along that will just change everything. If it's, obviously the internet already has, video camera has, and there's just going to be more of it. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Seth.
Well, I would like to shamelessly plug our guest, Nick Weiland. I appreciated listening to your perspective, and I wish you the best of luck with your campaign, and I hope that people get out there and vote for you, because I think we need more people like you who are open, just as you said. Even at times when you're like, hey, this is my idea, I think I'm right, you're still going to listen to other people. And that's what I want out of a elected official, is not someone who goes in there with a objective and they're going to complete that objective. I want them to go in there and start fielding, the questions and the concerns of the citizens that put them there. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Second shameless plug, archery. My girlfriend and I went to an archery range here in town on Valentine's Day and had a lot of fun, and I really like archery, and hopefully we'll get into it. And there's tons of places there in town and for archery, which is really cool, and it's a fun hobby, and it's you can do it indoors, which is great for the winter. It's a fun, physical-ish activity that you don't have to do outdoors, and that's great in South Dakota when you can find things that you like to do indoors, because it's cold out there.
Yeah.
By the time you hear this, the snow will be gone. Rob.
He's bringing it around full circle.
Yeah.
Oh.
What do you got for shameless plugs?
What do I have for a shameless plug? Ooh. I just did that politician thing where I said your question back to you to, like, buy time, but it didn't work. I still don't know. No, I'm going to shamelessly plug one of our in-house sister podcasts. This week I'm going to be shamelessly plugging Perlocution Podcast. It's idle chatter about thoughts that matter. It's hosted by Jenny Mack and a local comedian White Boy, and they talk about the political, social issues of the day and get into, like, really obscure stuff. They are not, like, regional like we are. They'll do stuff like national headlines or just, like, the history of, you know, like, the women's movement or something like that. They're all over the place. It's kind of like I let the inmates run the asylum, and yeah, it's a fun podcast. So that's just one of the many sister podcasts we have here at the Sioux Empire Podcast, and that's my shameless plug. Thank you so much for joining us this week, Nick.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, and we wish you luck in your campaign.